Home. It looks a little different for everyone. For some, it's a rustic cabin. For others, a big city high-rise. And for others, it's renting a tiny studio that said it had laundry in the building, but the dryer's always broken. And don't get me started on the gym. That's not a gym, it's an elliptical machine and a boiler room. And let's not even discuss parking. But no matter where you call home, Geico makes it easy to bundle and save on renters and car insurance. Easier than getting your landlord to return your calls. You can't hide forever, Leonard.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of The Yard. A lot to talk about today, for sure. Had a chance to watch the Bulldogs scrimmage on Saturday, give you my thoughts on that. I've worked the phones a little bit, trying to get you guys some information on Jordan Davis. No official report yet. And the fact that people aren't willing to talk makes me a little bit concerned because, with Jade and Wally, when Wally went down in the spring game, it was like this, maybe a day later, we had people kind of say, yeah, it doesn't look to be so bad. It's like it's a sprain rather than a tear. And so that is concerning in and of itself. Now, that's not a guarantee of anything. We may find out tomorrow that, hey, he's being held out as a precaution or whatever. We'll see. But I just don't like the way it's headed. And that's the immediate concern is the young man. This is a guy that has NFL aspirations and NFL ability. Really expected him to have a big year for us this year. And again, we don't know yet. But I would say based on his body language, when they put him on the cart, it wasn't good. Now, if memory serves me correct, Jordan Davis was coming off the defensive end spot there, and Albert Reese, freshman, mammoth offensive tackle, guard type guy, pancaked him. But I don't know if the pancake caused the injury or if the injury is what allowed him to be pancaked, because Jordan Davis is a relentless competitor. But either way, there was an engagement, and then Davis goes down a little bit awkwardly. I was watching it the whole way through. And then he doesn't get up. And then I said, hey, somebody's down. Everybody's like, oh, what number is it? And I knew there was a 6. I wasn't sure that it was 6. But I guess in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, please don't let it be 6. Not that we would want any of our student athletes to be injured. But when it's a guy that you're expecting to have a big year, you certainly, you kind of hold your breath. And so he laid there for a while. They began to work with him. So initially they were working on the lower leg, which made me think it's probably an ankle injury on the left side. That's how it was at first. They finally get him up, and of course they do a pretty good evaluation down there. And listen, we're up in the club level seats for the most part, and so we're not there on the sidelines. So I can't accurately say, with confidence, hey, here's exactly what they did. But I did see them get him up with some assistance, and he did have weight on both feet. Now, he was kind of gingerly moving that left leg around. They got him up on the cart and didn't immobilize him, didn't put an air cast on, didn't put a brace on or anything like that. They just got him on the cart and they wheeled him away. But, he had his head down. Now, granted, there's no pumping your fist when there's no crowd there, but I just didn't think his body language was good. So we'll prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Certainly hope that Jordan recovers. We'll talk a little bit about depth and, where do we go from here if that's the case. And one of the things I want to kind of caution people about, too, is we've had these discussions over on the genespage.com message boards, and Paul Jones does a daily depth chart. And we all kind of contribute to that, but it's Paul's baby. There are times I'll say, hey, so-and-so's running first team today, and he'll go kind of look and verify that. Because we want to kind of keep things updated. And it's one of those things, too, it's like, there's going to be ebb and flow with the depth chart, and they're not necessarily, about performance-related issues. It's one of those deals where, one day a guy gets a little bit banged up, and so he's in the injury pit for a day. Or there's a guy that, perhaps has something come up and has to miss practice or whatever. There's always something. And so what you look for are trends. And so I say that to say don't put an awful lot of stock in the day-to-day changes. Because, we're getting access to practice and we really haven't had any in the better part of 2 years. Obviously last year everything was closed. Joe shut down everything in 2019. We did get to go to some spring practices in 18, and I want to say a bowl practice or two. But it has been forever and a day that we've been able to observe fall camp practice. There are some times, with Dan Mullen, we're able to get a few periods. You go in and basically watch everybody stretch and throw the ball around a little bit. But as far as like watching team drills, these things, this hadn't happened since Cheryl, I don't believe. And so you're getting access. And so as a result, these little bumps and bruises that are just kind of part of camp, that gets reported and people think, oh my gosh, we're having all these injuries. Guys, it's no more than usual. The Jordan Davis thing is really the first real serious thing. Landon Guidry's a guy that's banged up too and could miss some time. He's down the depth chart a little bit, but that does not in any way minimize, his suffering or pain in any way whatsoever. But, we haven't had more injuries than normal. There are going to be guys that get a little bit banged up and, day or two with the trainers and they're back if they're ready to go. And there are a lot of these guys, too, that are somewhat slowed, and they're careful with them because you don't want a minor injury to become a major injury because, you don't attend to it properly. So don't read these practice reports or whatever and think, oh, my gosh, it's like a mass unit out there. It's not. It's not any different than it has been. And so far, we've been pretty fortunate, really up until the last couple of days. I saw Landon Guidry walking around one day last week trying to kind of get his trying to get his breath a little bit. He's walking around with a trainer out there on the track, and then the next thing you know, I don't see him in practice for a day. So we'll see how things progress with him. But, man, that poor kid snake bit, man. It's like he gets here and very first spring game, he tears his ACL on just kind of a routine play. Works his way back, gets some meaningful playing time last year. Now he's injured again. So feel there's a real possibility both of those guys miss the season. But again, a lot to see between now and then. What are we, 19 days away from the Mississippi State home opener on September 4th against Louisiana Tech? Mississippi State a better than 3 touchdown favorite in that ball game. That'll be a 3 p.m. game on ESPNU. Go ahead and make your plans to be here. I want to thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. You will too. A lot of raving fans about Bulldog Burger Company. And they're not just the kids, even though kids love going to Bulldog Burger Company because everything there is basically exactly what kids want. You get the great hamburgers. You get those wonderful fries. The onion rings, perhaps a little bit underrated at Bulldog Burger Company. I don't know if we talk about the onion rings enough. Go by and check them out today. The Pimentology Add Bacon is the Boneyard burger of choice. I've shared with you guys many times before. Even if you don't like pimento and cheese sandwiches, you'll love the Pimentology, whether you add the bacon or not. I add the bacon because, who doesn't need a little more protein? All that being said, 3 great locations to serve you right here on University Drive in Start Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and Lake Harbor Drive in Ridgeland. That's the baby. That's the brand new one. A lot of great reviews from that one. Let me encourage you, too. Maybe perhaps if you're thinking, you know what, Steve, I don't really need all those carbs, go have that BLT salad. Best salad in Starkville, I can personally attest to, whether you get the fried or the grilled. Absolutely outstanding. And again, I share with you guys regularly, I don't ever finish my meal at Bulldog Burger Company, ever. The portions are so generous. You get more than you pay for when you go to Bulldog Burger Company. So go have a good night out with the family tonight at Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's talk a little about the scrimmage. And so we're gonna do offense. We'll do top 10. We'll do defense, and then I've got a new feature for you guys later in the show. All right, so a lot to talk about. So let's look at this offensive stuff just because I think it's important to give some context for some of this stuff too. I think there are a lot of times people, they see and hear numbers and they think, wait a minute, and it's not worth getting upset about. Because the numbers don't tell the whole story. The numbers are the numbers, right? So let's start with the passing numbers. Will Rogers, 11 of 20 for 79 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, all these stats are unofficial. And let me give you guys a little bit of, an example for how it all works. So basically, everybody in the media works together as one group. So Logan Lowry charted tackles. Steph from the Columbus Dispatch, from the Daily Journal, did the receptions. And then so on and on and on, we all share it. I actually spotted for Hey Dad, and we did all defensive statistics, not tackles. So all the PBUs, the interceptions, fumbles recovery, the quarterback hurries, the sacks, we did all that. And so, again, this just gives you a pretty good idea. So, again, the stats, not official, but also, too, some of the yardage stuff, there may be a little bit of variance in that. But, again, it's a scrimmage, okay? It's a scrimmage. But we all kind of work together to kind of help each other to ensure that you guys have some idea of what it all looks like. So, Will Rogers, 11 for 20 for 179 yards, 1 touchdown. What's interesting is how many people kind of reacted negatively about that stat line. Because, again, the numbers don't tell the whole story. Will had 3 or 4 drops. 3 or 4. And they were all catchable balls. It wasn't like he threw it behind somebody. It had to be some acrobatic catch. Austin Williams had a couple drops. And that's not even concerning for me, because so you know exactly what you're going to get from Austin Williams. But, yeah, he had a couple drops, kind of uncharacteristic of himself. And then also Will threw a absolutely beautiful pass, a little bit long for Austin. Austin laid out. They ruled it an incompletion. I thought he had it. I thought he did. And, of course, that goes down as an incompletion. But it was a great effort. Maybe a little bit too much loft on that one, but I thought Will played well. And it's like you see and hear the numbers, and like I've seen people say, oh, yeah, well, this guy got outplayed or whatever. I just didn't see it that way at all. I thought Will Rogers, of all of the quarterbacks, showed the best command of the offense. Made the right reads, delivered the football to the right guys. Didn't always work out, but he did. Did a great job running the offense. Protected the football, tucked it and ran. And we didn't count any of those quarterback runs because the quarterbacks aren't live. But I thought Will did a good job. And to me, after watching that scrimmage on Saturday, I think Will Rogers, without a doubt, is the guy. And I've said on this show there is really no quarterback competition, but I like the fact that Leach is making him earn it a little bit. Chance Levertich, 19 of 30 for 152 yards and a touchdown. Listen, and I've shared with you guys before, if we have to have Chance Levertich run the offense, we're still going to be able to score. He's capable of running it. Now, he's not the biggest guy, and there are times he gets flushed out of the pocket, and sometimes I think he just kind of does it on his own. Whether the pressure is real or phantom, I think he's comfortable kind of getting out there and extending plays and allowing the receivers to work back to him. 19 of 30, but a lot of those are checkdowns. The first couple reads aren't there, so we immediately go check it down to the running back. And a lot of his yards came on those checkdowns where you'd have a guy break a tackle and make a lengthy run. I thought Jaquavius Marks had a couple nice receptions. But again, I'm in no way throwing shade at Chance Levertich. I don't think he is as talented as Will Rogers. I do think he is capable of running the offense. So there's not this big letdown. And last year that was kind of the concern, right? If Will had gone down last year, the season, it wasn't great, but what do you do? But again, Levertich very capable of running the scheme. I just don't think he'll run it with the same level of proficiency that Rogers will. Daniel Greek struggled at times. One of the things about Greek that is his ball placement is kind of all over the place. But on Saturday, he actually did a better job with that. There's sometimes you watch him in drills and you think, where's he throwing football? I thought he did a better job of that. He doesn't have the arm strength that maybe Sawyer Robertson does. And he was 5 for 8, and he had 2 picks. And to kind of give you some context, the first pick, J.P. Purvis just made a ridiculously good play there. Now, Greek's got to put a little more air under that ball. But there aren't a lot of players, I think, they're going to be able to have that type of extension and elevation. J.P. Purvis is kind of sat down there in his zone, and Greek just didn't see him. And he had a receiver streaking on the crossing route behind him. It was going to be a nice gain there, and Greek just didn't let him uncover. But again, that's a freshman, playing against an SEC backers. I think the highlight, the headline of that play is J.P. Purvis making a really great defensive play. Now the second pick is just a situation where Greek throws it up there. to the pylon and hopes his guy can make a play, and London Craft undercuts it, and of course that counts. But I don't necessarily know that it was the wrong decision. I think perhaps maybe the ball placement was off just a little bit. But Greek is behind Sawyer Robertson, and that's not a surprise to anybody. I mean, you sign a 2-quarterback class, you're going to have perhaps a guy that you feel is a blue chip and a guy that's somewhat of a developmental guy, and that's Daniel Greek. And I think Greek looks good in the uniform, and there are some times he does some really good things with the football, and you think, okay, So I think you've got something to work with there. I don't think in any ways people look at it and say, oh, that's just a waste of time or of effort. It's not. I think Daniel Greek's a guy that just is a little bit behind Sawyer physically, and I think that Greek is a guy that could be a guy that down the road that makes things interesting. But he's playing like a freshman. Sawyer Robertson not necessarily playing like a freshman. He got one series and goes 6 of 8 for 52 yards, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the incompletions was a drop. And I'm just kind of pulling that off the top of my head because I remember talking about that a little bit. Very quick getting the ball out. Does a good job too, though, of not necessarily settling for the check down too early. I think he does a good job kind of surveying the field and then goes to the check down. Some people it's like the first read's not there. Can we find a running back? I think Sawyer can work through his progressions a little bit better than some of the other guys. And the touchdown pass that he threw to Teddy Knox was phenomenal. And it's actually up into double coverage. But he throws it where his guy can elevate and go get it. Just letting your guy make a play. Now, of course, ball placement's off a little bit there. It's a pick, and all of a sudden it's a 5-for-8 day, with just a handful of yards, and everybody's thinking, well, Steve, what's going on? I feel good about the quarterbacks for this year and beyond. Now, Jack Abraham still not out there and not a full participant in practice. And again, I hate it for him. I think actually he would make the room better and make Will Rogers better because I think he is a guy that's capable of winning this job. But Jack, and God bless him, he has been dealing with this now for a couple months. It's very, very disappointing for him, and I'm sure his family and all those people who love him. And the bigger concern, too, is beyond football. I mean, you want him to be able to have, a normal day. You want him to be able to go to class. You want him to be able to, to not have to deal with these chronic headaches. And, again, it's kind of a freak accident that happened, during summer workouts. And next thing you know, he's unavailable. And so you hate it for him. Rushing, we actually ran the football pretty well at times. Jaquavius Marks, 3 rushes for 22 yards. He has a little more burst than he had a year ago. He really does. And that was what we hoped to see. Last year a lot of us saw there, a lot of arm tackles and that sort of stuff where you get him out in space and the first guy gets him. He shows a little more confidence this year. He's rounding into the running back we all hoped he would be. I'm really happy with what we see from Marks, not just as a runner but as a receiver. This is a guy that just wants football. Doesn't matter how you get it to him. Just let me have it. Dylan Johnson, 3 rushes for 8 yards. And again, I don't remember who kept the numbers on this. It seemed like he had a little bit more than that. But Dylan Johnson runs hard. Catravian Hargrove, 1 rush for 5 yards. Like what we saw from him out of the backfield, too, as a receiver. He's been a really good receiver all throughout camp. Omni Wells, and that's a guy, too. Omni Wells is a Division I running back. This happens to be a walk-on at Mississippi State, kind of down the depth chart. J.J. Jernigan ran hard a little bit, too, had the 1 rush for 6 yards. So, you look at these numbers, and people say, I don't understand why we didn't have more of an offense. Well, you got ones versus the 1 offense versus the 1 defense and 2s versus the 2s. So it's pretty much an equal fight. So receiving-wise, we really spread.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a nature show host.
In the native habitat of a suburban driveway, the poor victim of a broken windshield is left assessing his vehicle, utterly helpless.
Well, not true. If he's got Geico, he can file a claim online, over the phone, or with his handy mobile app.
But like a lone gazelle, he'll suddenly be left to fend for himself, awaiting his terrible fate.
Nope. Geico will assign him a designated claims team to help him out, too.
So the gazelle gets his car fixed and everything. Wow. Nature is so cool.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
The ball around a lot, as you could imagine. Jaden Wally, 2 catches, 12 yards, and a touchdown. The touchdown came from Will Rogers, and he did a nice job freeing himself Basically runs the back line of the end zone. Will finds him. Nice catch, gets a foot in bounds. Caleb Ducking, 3 catches for 22 yards. And I agree with Mike Leach for sure. Ducking does some things and you look up and you're like, wow. And then he disappears for a few plays. And then he comes back and you're like, okay, there it is. And then he disappears for a few plays. And so he's got to consistently get open because with his catch radius and his size, it's really a mismatch. But he's got to be willing to go make some plays. Austin Williams, 4 catches for 22 yards. He was targeted a lot. Willy Keith, 1 catch for 9 yards. We're going to need more of a production from Willy Keith. Arguably the most talented receiver on the roster physically. We need him to be a 7, 8, 9 catch a guy game. We're going to need more than that. And granted, it's a scrimmage, but I just thought about that. We didn't call his name a whole lot. That's got to get better. Mekhi Polk, 3 catches for 37 yards. And I really believe that Mekhi Polk is on par with Jaden Walley. Last year you'd be, Wally's our guy. Well, now all of a sudden you got Polk working the outside. And if Wally's working the inside, you get occupied at safety. Those guys can really feed off each other. But Mekhi Polk is a guy too. Great catch radius, takes ownership of the football when it's thrown in his direction, makes a contested catch, can run well after the catch. I think he's had a really great camp so far, really a great addition, and he's the starter. And he should be. I don't think there's any question. Rufus Harvey, 2 catches for 20 yards. Rufus has had a really good week. Didn't see as much from him the first few days of camp. He's had a really good week, though. Really good week. Made a couple of acrobatic catches, one for a touchdown. Really excited about Rufus. And I'll be honest with you guys. When we made the coaching change, I wasn't sure if we should go that direction. I worried a little bit about his size. We already had Tulu Griffin. How many slot receivers do we need? But I think Rufus has proven that he needs to be on the field. Brody King, 1 catch for 2 yards, and Brody got lit up pretty good on one particular play. I cannot remember who delivered the blow. I want to say it was Nick Mitchell. Yeah, Nick Mitchell is who it was on a crossing route. And he got him. It was a legal hit right in the chest. And listen, Brody absorbed it too. Brody got up and got moving. It wasn't a situation where he got the better of. Brody's a tough kid. But he is a guy too that that I expect there to be in that second team wide receiver. He's a guy that really uncovers well. We talk so much about route running, that sort of stuff. All the guys are a good route runner. A lot of times people say that they have no clue what they're talking about. The thing that I noticed with Brody King is he understands how to play against a zone. He finds the hole in the zone, he uncovers, he sits down, knows where to sit, and then as things kind of unfold, he can kind of work back to the quarterback too. But I think there's an element to this. And I don't think – is he going to be, a 5-6 catch per guy? No, he's not. But I can see this as a guy, especially on third down, being a guy that could really help us move the change. I do think there is a very positive impact from Brody King being on the team. A lot of people talked about him some on the message boards last year. And again, he had to play last year because we had a lack of depth at the position. But I think he's proven himself to be a hard worker. And now he's in a situation where I think he could see some balls thrown his direction. Jaquavius Marks, 3 catches, 24 yards. I just like what we're seeing out of this guy in every aspect. He's willing to step up in there and pass protection and hit somebody. Dylan Johnson might be a little bit farther ahead of him in that regard, but Mark shows a willingness to kind of stick his head in there and pick up a blitzer. He's doing a good job getting out in the flats, making people miss. You're going to see a more complete back from Jaquavius Marks this year. That's not to say he's a finished product by any stretch. But he is better for last year's experiences. There is no question about it. Quentin Torbert might be the surprise of camp at wide receiver. Paul Jones and I kind of laughed about this on Saturday. I'm surprised he didn't hit the portal. Honestly, there were so many other guys that were leaving. I thought, this is a guy too. Maybe he gets out of here and goes back to Louisiana, finds an opportunity to play, maybe at Louisiana Lafayette or one of those in-state schools. But he didn't do that. He stayed. And the guy is out there every day making catches. 4 catches, 53 yards. One of those was a little bit of a switch route they ran there, and he ends up being wide open and makes a nice play down the field. But this is a guy, too, not going to blow you away with speed or size, but he just seems to always get caught doing the right things. So I feel really good about this group, especially the returning guys. And we talk about, Polk and some of these newcomers. But you've got some of these returning guys that maybe didn't get a lot of reps last year that I believe kind of played their way into the rotation. Torbert's a guy, too, that, again, he's not going to be – you're not going to look up one day and say, oh, my goodness, he's got a dozen catches. But this is a guy, too, that because of the fact when you're spreading the field out and you've got a guy like him that's capable of making a play for you, now all of a sudden you can't shade coverage to one side. Now you can't roll that safety over to Mekhi Polk's side. Those are the things I think about long term. Dylan Johnson, 3 grabs, 14 yards. And listen, Dylan's one of those guys, too, that he's just going to run through you. He may not be able to make you miss the way that Marks can, but he'll just run through you. He'll just lower his shoulder and drive his feet and move the pile ahead a couple yards, get a first down. Teddy Knox, just the one catch, but, man, it was spectacular. 1 grab, 24 yards and a touchdown. That was with he and Sawyer Robertson. Here's the thing with Teddy. He is an explosive guy. There are times, though, that I think that there are balls that are catchable, and I don't know that he fully appreciates that yet. At least not in practice. There are some times that the ball will be thrown his direction, and it's not perfect. And he didn't make the play. And you can say, well, quarterbacks got to throw a better ball. It's true, but, in this league, the margin for victory is very, very slim. And so I think that's where it's the consistency with him effort-wise on that type of stuff is what you're looking for. Now, the rest of it, he's got that handled pretty good. They bring him on that, jailbreak screen. He can get underneath, and he can make people miss and do some impressive things. I think he is a guy that's going to have a big career here at Mississippi State. And for those of you that don't know, there were some people shortly after Mason Smith left that suggested Teddy might go into the portal, but there's been none of that. There's been no talk of that, And, I think Teddy was kind of sold on the scheme here and is acclimating well. Dave Nickel really talks highly of him. Simeon Price, the running back out of Pensacola, former South Carolina commitment, 2 catches, 22 yards. He's another one that's had a pretty good week, though. Had a pretty good week. And he's down the depth chart, but you look up and I was, hey, there's Price again. Okay, all right, cool. Now, he does not look like a freshman. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think he would show up nearly as filled out as he was. I mean, you look at his high school film, you say, okay, kid probably needs a year in the weight room. Well, he already had that year. He's worked very, very hard. 215 pounds, I think what Eric Mewey told us. But he doesn't look like a freshman. And I begin to think about this group, this young group. You got 4 freshman backs, right? Technically. Jaquavius Marks, Dylan Johnson, Contravian Hargrove, and now Simeon Price. I think, man, we've got some real value and some real talent in those scholarship allocations. We've had some guys the last couple of years, you kind of want to talk yourself into it. Not these guys. These guys can all play. I like what we've done with the running back room. I really remember last year it was Colin Hill and a couple of young guys, and then Colin opted out. Colin scored a touchdown this weekend. Good for Colin. But, we're benefiting from that last year. We're benefiting from the fact that Marks and Dylan Johnson had to play. So they've got that under their belt. They kind of know what's happening now. They're probably not going to know how to act when they play a team like Louisiana Tech or Memphis because they're just so used to NFL prospects chasing them all over the field. But you add Hargrove and Price to the mix, you got some real depth there. Christian Ford might have been the surprise of the day, and that's not in any way to be disrespectful to his camp. But he had 5 catches for 38 yards, and he's another guy. I mean, you look up and all of a sudden he's open. Oh, there's 24 again. There's 24. And even sometimes when he didn't get the football, he's running free. Just another walk-on guy that, Mike Leach doesn't care about that. He doesn't care how you signed or what you rated in high school. Once you get on the field, it's about earning playing time. And I can see Christian Ford making a push. Omni Wells, 3 catches, 18 yards. And so, again, you run across there and you know what you've got. Willy Keith, Austin Williams, Jaden Wally, Mekhi Polk, those are your starters. And remember, Tula Griffin didn't even play. Tula Griffin's still kind of working back now. I guess it was Friday we saw him. He's out there working with the trainers, but catching the football, kind of working his way back. But he didn't even play. And you still had, some guys out there really competing at a high level. And so you look at that second group of receivers, there's a ton of them. And listen, it's not in any way atypical for Mike Leach to have as many as a dozen guys catching balls in a ball game. I mean, you go look at Washington State, they distribute the football around. But I like our group. Now, offensive line-wise, I thought the ones held up really well. Really thought the ones did a good job. LaQuinton Sharp had a couple of low snaps, but not anything concerning. He didn't roll it back there. Just a couple times where the quarterback had to make an adjustment, kind of bend down. And sometimes that kind of slows up the rhythm of the play. But it wasn't up to the point that it's concerning. You're going to have some of that in a ball game. But it was okay. Charles Cross playing well. Left guard situation out there. Cam Jones, the guy that's competing. Cole Smith's running second team guard. And as I shared with you guys on the show last week, is like, the fact that Cole is running second team is not an indictment on his ability, but it's really a testament to kind of the guys around him. You can say, oh, man, will Cole Smith drop to second team? Well, yeah. But, Cole Smith's a guy that played really well for Mississippi State at times last year, too. And so it's not like Cole has regressed. It's just some guys around him have gotten better. Cole also running second team, I guess, at left guard, and he's kind of that swing guy on the interior. He can play any of those three interior line positions. Dollar Bill looks at home at right guard, and Scott Lashley out there at right tackle. And I was curious to see how Scott would handle things on Saturday. It's one thing to do drills and pass skelly and that sort of stuff and positional drills. But what do you do, though, when you really got to get out there and do it live in the stadium? Thought he handled himself pretty well. I was pleasantly surprised. And that's not to say I didn't expect, Scott to play well. I just wondered if perhaps, the first time with the bullets flying, with those guys coming off the edge, how would he handle it? And I thought he acquitted himself really well. So I feel good about the ones. And then, I'm hearing a lot of good things about Nick Jones. Nick Jones is signed out of East Mississippi Community College. Not exactly sure where he's going to fit just yet, but probably a second-team tackle. And you need at least three. You've got three guards, right, because you got Cole Smith. Reed Bias is a guy that's been running some at center with a second and a third team. He's a little bit slowed right now. Didn't play on Saturday, but not expected to be out long. Reed's a guy who's kind of working back. And Reed's a guy, too, that I share with you guys, too. He looks like a different player. If you go back and look at some of those pictures that I took of Reed when he was in high school and coming to camps in Mississippi State, and you look at him now, you wouldn't think it's the same person. He's really committed himself to the weight room. And so I think he has put himself in a position to be a guy that Mississippi State can count on. So you got to get everybody healthy. You got to kind of get everybody moving. Carson Williams, another guy, too, has played some at right tackle with a second team. So the ones are good. The twos are a work in progress. But that's how it should be halfway through camp. You shouldn't have your two deep set at this point. Still some guys moving around, moving back and forth. And again, a lot of guys got reps on Saturday. A lot of guys, they got reps on Saturday. And Albert Reese is a massive human being. I mean, he looks like a grizzly bear. I mean, he does. I mean, it's like when you see that guy get into an athletic position, you think guys that big aren't supposed to move that fluidly. But he did a good job. He did. It's a lot to learn, but did a good job. Time for today's top 10 list. CloseWithBlair.com. For all your mortgage needs, whether you're looking to buy a house for the first time, a second time, a third time, or refi your home, maybe you're looking for a second mortgage, maybe you're looking for a line of credit, maybe you're just thinking, hey, we want to buy an investment property, how do we do it? All those questions that are kind of banging around in your brain, they can be answered. CloseWithBlair.com. And here's the thing, too. Blair gives me some inside information, too. Rent's going up. So you're going to be paying more out of pocket to rent a home or an apartment. But you know what? The ability to accrue equity is also going up. So it's just a better investment of your money to be a homeowner. Not to mention, don't you want to give your family that forever home feeling? Not be constantly on the move, or every couple of years we're going to go somewhere else, It's time to put your roots down. Blair's also shared with me, too, that if you are a Boneyard listener and you mention Boneyard when you talk to him, he's going to pay for your appraisal. How about that? I mean, that's what, $300 right out of the gate? I mean, just by being a Boneyard listener, we're saving you money. Not a lot of people can do that for you. Blair also a Mississippi State guy through and through. Known Blair a long time. Blair's got a place here, season ticket holder here. Comes, cheers for the Bulldogs. And, listen, I'm a big proponent of doing business with Bulldogs whenever we can. So visit them today at Close with Blair. That's BLAIR.com. CloseWithBlair.com. Or give him a call. Let him know that I sent you. Mention the Boneyard to get that free appraisal. 601-500-2344. And here's the thing, too. This is not just a friend of mine. This is a mortgage professional that gets things done. 21 years in the business, running in the top 1% nationally of all loan originators, not just at Fairway Mortgage, which is who he works for, but nationally. Mississippi State baseball, number 1 nationally. Blair Chandler, number 1 nationally. Do business with the winners. Okay, so today we're going to go a little pop. Listen, the numbers last week on the top 10 list were outstanding. You guys love Poison. Maybe I missed a memorandum. Maybe I'm the lame one. Here I am priding myself on being the cool kid, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Poison is great. They have a few great songs, but I'm not a C.C. DeVille fan. I'm really not. And maybe because I look at his guitar playing and think I should be able to do that, and I can't. But anyway, congratulations to Poison, our new number 1. And guys, we got about 300 top 10 lists in the last couple of years. We started this during the quarantine of 2020. We've done over 300 now. And Poison's number 1. The most listened to, the most impressions, the most business is Poison. And it pains me a little bit. Now, I don't know if we catch Poison today, but I think today's artist, and we're going to change it up a little bit too. We're going to do a little Blue-Eyed Soul here. Some modern-day R&B with arguably one of the greatest and most successful men's vocalists of this era. We're Justin Timberlake from NSYNC. And NSYNC was good. Of the boy bands, I liked NSYNC the best, maybe because they could also dance, because, I can dance too. And if you don't believe me, you can find the videos online. But be that as it may, it's JT Day today on the Boneyard. Change it up a little bit. Yeah, I listen to rock stuff, but also, just a couple days ago, I'm riding around listening, to Depeche Mode, and I get done with that, and I put on NXS, which we ought to do NXS. So Roy will put that on the list for us. I love NXS. I absolutely do. I think Michael Hutchins is one of the greatest male vocalists of all time. But I do. I kind of expand my horizons a little bit, and, not a huge country guy, but I like a variety of music. And Justin Timberlake is one of those guys I can absolutely respect, because every time he comes out with a new album, it's always different, but it's always true to who he is. And I think he has got some people around him that are phenomenal that really push his talent. All right, so here we go. Top 10 Justin Timberlake solo songs. We're not doing any NSYNC stuff. We've already done the boy band thing. So Justin Timberlake's top 10. I'm going to go, number 10 is Senorita. I like it because I like the Latin flair. There's a little swing to that one. Vocally, I think it's really good. And that's, Justin Timberlake, very consistent with that sort of stuff. So Senorita is number 10. Now, my number 9 song is probably much higher on your list. I'll be honest with you, initially I didn't really like the song. Kind of grew on me after a while because the radio played it like every 15 minutes. But it's Sexy Back. He worked with Timberland on that album, and I know a lot of people love it. I think it's very clever. The beat is what kind of bothered me initially. It's like you've got this heavy club beat, and I just didn't think the song really meshed well in the beginning. But over time, it grew on me. Number 8 is My Love. And I love this song. I love his use of the falsetto. He does a great job on this one. And he just sounds so genuine and authentic in what he sings. You think he's singing to somebody he really cares about. I dig it. Number 7, going back towards the beginning of the JT solo joint, is Rock Your Body. I know a lot of people knew that one. It seemed like it was on the radio too, about every 20 minutes too. JT, very popular with ladies. Not only because he's a good-looking dude, but he's also very talented. He writes music I think is relatable when it comes to relationships, and I think I think women really dig that. And for those of you guys who don't know this too, women like a guy that can dance too. They do. No matter what you tell yourself, they do. They like a guy that can have a good time. Like a guy to go to the bar or whatever, go to the show, have a good time. Not just stand there nursing the same Bud Light long neck all night. Saying, yeah, you having fun? No. That's not who she's looking for, guys. All right, number 6, and this one is one of the biggest hits of his career. I don't like it as much as some of the other ones on the list, which is why it's number 6. And you look at the iTunes, like at the Apple Music thing, like when you look for top songs, I don't know if you know how that algorithm works. It's not somebody at Apple that decides, okay, this is number 1. So the songs that are the most listened to songs are what's on that top songs list. It's easy. It makes perfect sense. But it's not somebody else that's kind of arbitrarily deciding that. It's you, the listener. Every time that you go listen to a song, that's basically a vote for that song, keeps it on the top songs list. The top song on the Justin Timberlake iTunes list is Can't Stop the Feeling. I like it too, but I don't like it as much. And again, I like the use of the falsetto there, and I think the bass line is really cool in that one too. Number 5, and this was kind of the comeback. I remember when he released this album, it kind of came out of nowhere. And it's like, hey, this album's coming out, and Suit and Tie came out, and I thought it was great. I thought that there was so much swag in the video. Justin Timberlake is one of these guys that just has this supreme confidence, and I thought that really came across in the song. Suit and Tie, number 5. Number 4, and this one might not be as high on your list. I like it. I like it a lot because of the video too. But it's like you think about, you go find that special person, and then eventually you kind of see yourself in them, and then their better qualities, of course, rub off on you, and it's like you kind of become one person in many respects. I don't mean in a negative way where you don't have your own life, but you have this unique bond where you kind of see and feel things kind of the same way, and that's what I think this song is about, and it's called Mirrors. I love it. I love the vocal delivery on it. I love the harmonies on the chorus. It's a fabulous song. It really is. Good message. And the video is really good too. Number 3, and at times in my life, I think this has been my favorite Justin Timberlake song. It's probably got the best percussion of anything in the catalog. But it's Like I Love You featuring Clips. And for those of you that don't know who Clips were, I don't think they still perform. Their first hit was with Birdman, and it was What Happened to That Boy. They're from Virginia. I like them a lot too. I think they were kind of undervalued during their run there, but both of them have a great verse during the rap portion of Like I Love You. And again, JT uses the falsetto on this one too, at just the right amount. Like I Love You, number 3. Number 2, What Goes Around Comes Around. No, it's not a cover of the Rat classic. It's an original JT song. I really like this one a lot too. And again, the message behind it too. It's just like you can't just treat somebody in a poor way and then expect to live life happily. Eventually karma catches up with you. Number 1, in a video that caused some controversy, which I think is cool too. A lot of people thought that this was like a message to Britney Spears, and maybe it was. Justin Timberlake has never fully denied that. But the girl in the video looks a lot like Britney Spears. Now, she's not, but she bears a striking resemblance. But it's the video and the song for Cry Me a River. That is my favorite Justin Timberlake song. Not because there's any personal connection. I just think the song is great. I thought Timbaland did a great job producing it. I loved his vocals on it as well, late in the song. And there's just this smugness with the song that I think is kind of infectious. So there you go. That's a top 10 Justin Timberlake songs. You probably weren't expecting that from me on a Monday, but there we go. I can respect the guy that writes his own music. And he doesn't do all of it, but Justin Timberlake got some good people around him. But an incredible performer. Without a question. And one of the things I love about JT too is that, he just kind of transcends the genre. I think a lot of it is because of the fact that he has talents that most people don't. And say, oh, well, there's a lot of people that can dance, but not many people can sing like him. And there are a lot of people that can sing a little bit, but they can't dance like him. So he is a phenomenal performer. In many ways, you can tell that he was probably inspired by Michael Jackson. Not at that level, but one of the biggest superstars of this generation for sure. Justin Timberlake. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. You can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. If you're not following me on Twitter, you have to wonder what you're doing with your life. We have a lot of fun over there. Also, too, you can find a lot of great free content over on my Twitter account. So, again, reach out, let me know. Roy does a great job kind of keeping these lists together, and every so often somebody will send me one, and I think we've already done it. Roy's like, nope, we hadn't. So, Roy, thank you again. Tip of the cap to him for kind of keeping me straight. He's made this top 10 thing kind of his project. I don't know that I could pull all this off regularly without Roy. Roy removes a lot of anxiety because there was sometimes in the past I would sit around here at this desk and ask myself, what are we going to do a top 10 about today? And it would take me hours to figure it out. And so Roy kind of like, hey, let's do this, or we hadn't done this or whatever. So we'll probably do NXS sometime soon. But if you have an idea, let me know. And many of you guys have reached out, and we've already done them. And so I do my best to send those lists back to you because obviously you have an interest. Did a Bob Seger thing today. Somebody shared with me they've been listening to some Seger over the weekend. I was curious if we'd done a top 10. Well, we did almost a year ago to the day. Happy to share those with you. So sometimes it takes me a day or two to get those back to you because I get busy. Next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Book Mart. You guys know Campus Book Mart. And many of you didn't know Campus Book Mart until you started listening to Boneyard. I've had many people tell me, Steve, I've never been in there before. I just have my regular haunts. And I went and checked them out because they were on the show. And now this is my Mississippi State merchandiser of choice. You can visit them in person. Go see Stan the Man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie Candy, the whole crew downstairs, holding it down in the basement. Great crew of folks. They're like family to me. They'll treat you like family too. It's not just because I'm special. They treat everybody special. It's what they do. These guys know how to do the retail business. If you can't make it to town to go meet them and see their smiling faces in person, you can visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. Again, we'll save you a little money here. Promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. It once was a throwaway line, and now it is a lifestyle. That'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50 incomplete, so be sure to use that promo code BSR. Many of you are probably thinking, you know what, I gotta get caught up with my championship merch, and you can. There's new stuff all the time. And not to mention, we're getting ready to play football here in a few weeks. Everybody needs some new football gear. Listen, I think we can all agree we're okay with you wearing the M over S to any event, whether it be a baseball game, football, basketball, church, weddings, whatever. It's perfectly acceptable. I'm not a big fan of the old T-shirts, but you know what? You wear what you want to wear. I'm not going to judge anybody for wearing their, maroon is all that matters shirts. You wear what you want. I don't care. I got some T-shirts. I'm just waiting, maybe drop a few more pounds, and I'm going to pull them out of retirement. But it's football season, so maybe it's time to get some football gear too. But again, campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, let's talk a little defense from the scrimmage. The one guy, after talking to a couple staffers, the one guy that we're struggling to block is Tyrus Wheat, and it showed on Saturday. Didn't matter where we lined him up, didn't matter who we lined up across from. Ty Wheat is a difference maker on this defense. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. Tackles, your number two, I guess maybe he's backing up Martin Emerson. So I guess that's the left cornerback spot. It's DeCamerion Richardson at 6 tackles. The kid's, he's growing up. We weren't quite sure what he was going to play. Is he a safety? Is he a corner? He had a really good spring. Darcel McBath told me he thought he was the most improved corner in the group. Thought he really made a jump. And listen, he's having to earn this most days against Mekhi Polk out there. It's not like he's out there working against walk-ons and that sort of stuff and newcomers. He's getting some of that too. But he's going against, a lot of times, facing off against your first and second team wide receivers. He's holding his own. Then he has 6 tackles. Very physical player. Does a good job keeping his hands on people. Rodney Gross had 5 tackles. And Rodney's a guy that's been down a little bit, the depth chart, but, he's still, young in his career. Rodney did a nice job on Saturday. You look at him physically, and it's like you almost forget about him because we never talk about him. And you're like, hey, who is that? Oh, that's Rodney Gross. Okay. I mentioned Nick Mitchell kind of laid one on the chops to Brody King. Nick Mitchell, 4 tackles, too. Real active out there. You can tell he's a guy that's embraced the weight room. He didn't look like a freshman. Jed Johnson, 3 tackles. And Jed has had a good camp. Jed's everywhere. I think Jed is playing with kind of a reckless abandon these days. There's a lot of effort with Jed Johnson. He's running second team, but listen, he's giving first team effort. Nick Jarrett's a guy that's down the depth chart a little bit, but did some nice things. Did some nice things on Saturday. So is he a special teams guy? Yes, he probably got it, plays, late in some ball games to kind of save some wear and tear on the 2 deep. Yeah. But he flashed a little bit too. I thought, you know what? That's a pretty good effort from a guy that's running third team. Colin Duncan, 3 tackles. And Colin missed some time this week, but, of course, played in a scrimmage. I don't know that we had a defensive back that improved more over the season last year than Colin Duncan. And now here he is, and you got 14 guys vying for starting safety spots, and then Colin's holding those guys off, still running first team. I think that says a lot about the guy, and it says a lot about what his coaches think about him. Desean Page had 3 tackles, including a huge tackle for loss late. This is a guy you can just kind of see it starting to come together. I mean, he's very intimidating. Like when you see him on the field, he is an imposing figure. And then all of a sudden you see him out there moving and reading plays and he hit Jaquavius Marks for a loss. And I've told you guys how Marks has improved. But when he ran into Desean Page, the play was over. There was no breaking through that. Tamar Rogers also had 3 tackles. And listen, very lengthy guy. Just got to gain a little weight. But I'm eager to see what he looks like after a couple of years in the weight room. Sacks, we mentioned Tyrus Wheat earlier. He led the team with 2. And he probably could have had more. I mean, it's like, and again, that's not an indictment on the offensive line. Tyrus Wheat is a special player. Now, I think we all knew that when we signed him. Remember, we had to kind of hold off some guys late. He was the last guy to sign in that class. That December, But Tyrus Wheat looks like what you want him to look like. He just runs through people. His first step is next level. This is a guy, when he decides it's time to get to the quarterback, it's third down. When he decides to run on third down, it's fourth down. They just can't block him. And it doesn't matter where you send him, where you line him up. He is Zach Arnett's dream. There's no question. Tyrus Wheat has made a jump. We had a really good spring. Down the stretch last year, he was good too. We missed some time last year, but he had a really good spring. He's picked up where he's left off. Really excited about Tyrus Wheat. Jordan Davis talked about him earlier in the show. He also had a sack, and he was a guy, too, that was close to getting a couple more. Really need him to be okay. But you know what? If he's not, we're going to be okay. Our season's not going to end. Are we a better defense with Jordan Davis? Absolutely. But we've got some other guys, too. And not to mention, look at what Zach Arnett and that staff did last year, and they were really thin. All the way around the defense, week to week. You never knew who was playing. Nathan Pickering, I thought he had his best day of camp. Now, he missed some time. He was in camp, but he was slowed. Some days he was with the trainers. Saw him kind of get back in the mix in the rotation a little more last week. And, again, you can tell he's not quite there, conditioning-wise. I thought he was really good Saturday. And the kid's a gamer and kind of always has been. He was in the backfield, knifing through there. And listen, out there really playing with some energy. And that's always good to see. Armandus Cooley had a nice sack, too. And it was really kind of a bust in protection. But Cooley just came right through there and finished a play. And he's a guy, too, we didn't see a lot from last year and probably a reserve this year after playing behind Cam Young and Jaden Crumity, of course. But to have him down the depth chart, let him develop a little bit, that's big. DeMonte Russell also had a sack. And if Jordan Davis cannot go this year or just an extended period of time, DeMonte Russell's got to be the guy. DeMonte's got to step up over there and just take charge of that position. Jed Johnson also with a sack, and then Sherman Timms. I'll have a story on Sherman a little bit later today. Sherman, of course, placed on a football scholarship back in January. Now a scholarship player. He and London Craft both. Two former walk-ons that came on and competed in the Southeastern Conference and earned a scholarship. And congratulations to them and their families. Tackles for loss, Cam Young with a pair. You guys have heard me praise Cam Young on the show. Looks and plays like what you want your interior guy to play like. There's a couple times he plays a little bit high, but more times than not, he's able to get good pad level and kind of get in there and make a play for you. Martin Emerson on nice tackle for loss, and we mentioned Desean Page earlier. So we're moving line of scrimmage some, probably not quite as much as we want just yet. And once we settle that that front seventh, our front six, I think will be good. Pass breakups, Colin Duncan with one. Sherman Timms had a batted pass. Size Furge, PBU. Rodney Gross, batted pass, and Nathan Pickering as well. So again, there's Pickering again flashing, making a play for you. Pass breakups, we mentioned quarterback hurries. Jevin Banks back there doing some good things, and then Desean Page. Jevin Banks is a guy we hadn't talked about a whole lot, but every time that we talk about him, it's always something positive. It's never, okay, well, he got beat on a play or he's not putting forth good effort. Every time we talk about Jevin Banks, he's doing something good. You see a video of him, just driving through somebody in a drill, or you see him out there making a play. I mean, it's like he always gets caught doing the right thing. Now, he's a guy, too. We talk about him and Cooley both. You begin to think about the future. I think these guys are going to round into starters for you here in the next couple of years. Interceptions, J.P. Purvis, London Craft. Mentioned both of those. Both of those were Daniel Greek picks. Sean Preston also with a fumble recovery. And I would have had the fourth fumble for you, but it was such a bang-bang play. Just couldn't get everybody's number. But defensively, I think we're really salty. I think offense held their own. It was a competitive day. I don't know that I would claim a victory either way. I think Mississippi State won. When I go back to last week, the defense dominated Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday were offensive days. They were off Thursday. And then next thing you know, we get out there in a scrimmage. Friday was probably a little more of a 50-50 day, and I really thought Saturday was as well. We didn't go out yesterday. But, it's an exciting time. We're not ready to go play a football game yet, and we're not ready to go play a football game yet. Mike Leach kind of shared those comments as well. We're not ready to go, but we're about where we should be halfway through camp. Kicking was a little bit interesting. Brandon Ruiz is the guy. I don't think there's any question. The most consistent. Some other guys out there competing, in all three kicking disciplines, but I guess Tucker Day has probably got a leg up right now. Pardon the pun on punting. But he's being pushed. You got some other guys out there that are competing, but I think Tucker Day is the guy, and I think Brandon Ruiz is your kicker. And, I'm like you guys. When he trots out there, I've got confidence that he's going to make it. Unless we're lining up like a 50-yarder, I kind of hold my breath a little bit. But when he trots out there 45 and under, I'm thinking this is 3. I mean, it's just automatic. And so I think he will absolutely hold on to that job. Scott Goodman, I know, is pushing him some for that kickoff specialist job. And so it's not going to be as simple as, everybody's just saying, okay, well, you did this last year, you can have the job back. Everybody's having to compete at every position. And it's not just with the newcomers from scholarship. There are some guys last year that played and didn't get an opportunity to play as much as they wanted to that have really embraced the weight room, and they're coming back and bringing some fresh competition. That makes everybody better. There's no question about it. Makes absolutely everybody better. Let me give you guys an opportunity to get a bit of an update on Dogpile. Working through that now. As of yesterday, 20 chapters in the book. Got 4 more to go. I will sit down with Ron Polk and Chris Ramonis this week. I'll write those up, and I've got a MSU baseball history chapter, and then the final chapter. Can talk about what it all means. And I want to go ahead and tell you guys now, I had solicited some fan stories. I wanted to try to include some of those. I don't know if they're going to make it, to be honest with you. The budget for the book was 75,000 words. It looks like we're going to come in between 85 and 90,000. So I don't know if it's going to work out for us to add other submissions. So I'm just going to take it a day at a time, and once I submit the manuscript, if there's any room to work with, I'll work those in. I may use some of those over as an article on Gene's page, because I think it'd be a shame to waste them. Some of you guys have some great stories, and so I'll find a way to get those things done. I just don't know if they're going to be in the book. But it's been a lot of fun. I'm done recapping the games. There's a chapter for each week of the season, like I talked about. Had a lot of fun reliving that stuff, and I'd go back and watch them again too. Like you take your notes and you go back and watch the games again. You make some more notes, and you go back. Sometimes when you get a big moment, you go back and watch it again, just because you want to capture the moment as best you can. So I put a lot of time and effort into this, and I'll be honest with you, I'm tired. I am. That's one of the reasons you didn't get a show first thing this morning. I got home, went to the movies last night, went to bed. But it's been a joy to put this thing together. Now, the cover has been finalized with a couple small adjustments left. So we'll release the cover soon and the pre-order link. I'll be able to share that on all my social media. And I'm going to ask you to please share it too. Retweet it, share it on your Facebook page. Not just because you love me, but because you love other Mississippi State fans that maybe don't follow me on social media. And so help us get the word out. Because ordinarily these books come out for me in September or October. This is going to be a late October, early November release. So there's not going to be a lot of time for people to get them in time for the holidays. There's going to be a big demand for them too. Every time I turn around, I'm getting some bookstore or some retailer reaching out saying, hey, who do I contact to order, to go ahead and get our order together. So a lot of people are expecting this book. I'm very excited about putting it together for you. And, it's one of those things too where you live this and you think, oh, okay, well, I remember how this happened. And then you go back and you read the box scores and you read your own notes and you watch the games again. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I missed that. And so that's been kind of cool too. And so I've been really detailed with all that. I had a chance to sit down and visit with John Cohen last week, as you guys know. I wrote that chapter of yesterday. John, very revealing about some things too. Very candid in his comments. Talked a lot about the coaching search. We hired Chris Lemonis. Talked about Andy Cannizaro some. Talked about when he took the head coaching job at Kentucky and the job here at Mississippi State, how difficult it was in many respects. So many of you are going to learn some things that perhaps you don't know now. And I think that's part of the mandate of writing a good book, is to be informative, not just to be entertaining, but there has to be an educational element of this thing too. And so I'm going to talk with Polk too. Excited to sit down and talk with Coach about these things too, because I haven't really had a chance to talk with him since we won the national championship. I'm the first guy that wants to give Paul Gregory and those guys a lot of credit, and they deserve it. But Ron Polk is the one that really pushed Mississippi State to national prominence consistently, and so even Chris Lemonis will tell you, Coach Polk built this program into what it is, and so I'm eager to sit down with number one, and not just talk about the national championship, but I want to know about him making the move from Georgia Southern to Mississippi State. I've never had that conversation with him. And so I'm going to have a one-on-one conversation. I'm going to talk about, what kind of hand that Jimmy Bregan left him. And many of you are saying, Steve, who's Jimmy Bregan? Well, he was the head coach before Coach Polk got here. Well, I thought it was Paul Gregory. Well, it was. Paul Gregory was here, and then Gregory left, and then Bregan came in for 1 year. A former Diamond Dog came in to coach us and then got an opportunity to go back to the major leagues, and so he did. And so we're kind of left in a lurch there, and we hired a guy named Ron Polk that had taken Georgia Southern to Omaha. You don't think that guy was a hot coaching candidate? And so I just want to sit down, for my own curiosity, but also, too, to let you guys maybe learn some things about Ron Polk that maybe you didn't know, and learn some more about Diamond Dog baseball history. And so looking forward to that conversation, of course, Chris Lemonis. And I tell you guys, too, I don't think I shared this with you. When I was in Omaha, had the chance to visit a little bit with Dan McDonnell. And, Dan is a huge Chris Lemonis fan, as you can imagine. And he said, he looked at John Cohen and he said, I told you the guy was going to be a star. And he did. And it's all of a sudden you see these things kind of progress, and you realize that there are a lot of great coaches out there that don't have a national championship. Dan McDonnell's one of them. And it's just a matter of time. I mean, it is. And we made a big run at him and a big push at him. We couldn't get him. But the reality of it is that, we're kind of in some uncharted territory here. But there is a new level of respect for Mississippi State baseball and for Chris Lemonis because of this national championship. We all knew at some point we'd get one, and we hoped we would. And every year it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe not this year. Because we pick our own team apart. You become so acutely aware of your deficiencies. Because that's one thing that I'll say. People talk about homers. I don't know. I think we've got a lot of nitpickers at the Mississippi State fan base. It's like we're always so scared to believe. We're trying to find some way. No, they're not going to win it. They're not going to win it. And here's why. We don't have this. We don't have a second baseman. They changed the brand of the hot dogs. I mean, there's always something that we'll kind of pick and choose. And my hope is that what's happened this summer has taught us that it's okay to believe. It's okay to believe. Talked with Chris a couple days ago, and he made a comment that right after we won, people were saying, "Oh, great, now we can repeat." I'm like, okay, let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Let's celebrate what we got before we start talking about a repeat. But I'm excited about this team. I know you guys are as well. And I encourage you guys too, if you're thinking about moving to Starkville, give our friends at Portico a try. Absolutely great opportunity for you there. It's a great place to live. It's 1.1 miles from campus, but it's on the right side of campus. And what I mean by that is you're not really in the hustle and bustle of 12. You got the convenience of 12, but you're on the back side of that. You don't have to worry as much about all the traffic. So I think it's important to kind of understand how all this is going to break loose. You're going to go there and you're going to check it out and you're going to love it and you're going to move to Starkville. Whether it be part-time, whether it be an investment property for you, or whether it be your regular residence. You're going to love it when you go. Very easy to get to. You turn off of 12 onto 12, off of 82. You take the very first right, which is Pat Station Road. You cross Old West Point Road, and there's your place. And that sounds like a lot. It's not. It's just, again, it's 1.1 miles away. So I encourage you to go by and check them out. You need information. There's 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes, 4-bedroom, 4-bath homes, that great walking trail. Phase 1, just about all those houses are gone. And so phase 2, that's up and moving now. You need information. And who better to give you information than one of our own, Brooks Bryan. Brooks, longtime supporter of the show, longtime supporter of Starkville, longtime supporter of Mississippi State, former Diamond Dog, Brooks Bryan. Give him a call today at 601-416-8075. I believe in doing business with Bulldogs. None bigger than Brooks Bryan. 601-416-8075. Be sure to check out Portico today. Make it your next move. All right, I told you guys we're going to add a new feature to the show. And you guys know that I am a Mississippi State sports historian. And I'm very curious about a lot of things. And so I wanted to kind of share some of this with some of our younger listeners and maybe some longtime listeners that maybe perhaps didn't know a lot of these things. And so I'm going to close the show most weeks, most shows, with this. I don't know what we call it. Maybe we come up with something cool, but I want to talk a little bit about Don Scott. Don Scott, Mississippi State's first Olympian. It is his name that led to our playing surface being called Scott Field. And for years and years, it was simply Scott Field. I grew up going to Scott Field before it was Davis Wade Stadium. It was Scott Field. And so people say, okay, well, who's Don Scott? Well, let's talk about that. Don Scott's a guy from Woodville, Mississippi, born there and actually lived an incredibly long time. It's born in Woodville and then died in San Antonio, Texas, back in 1980. Don Scott ran track and played football and basketball for Mississippi State and later competed for the U.S. Army. He was the AAU 800 meters champion in 1916 and runner-up in that event in the 1920 Olympics. He completed the unusual double of competing at the Olympics in athletics and the modern-day pentathlon, finishing 26th in the pentathlon in 1924. Scott starred for the Mississippi State Bulldogs football team in 15 and 16, and to say he starred might be stretching just a little bit. In his honor, his name later graced football stadium field at the school. Scott fielded at Davis Wade Stadium. Scott was a career military officer. He served in the U.S. Army, reaching the rank of colonel, and fought in both World Wars and the Korean conflict. Prior to college, he had prepared for a military career at Chamberlain Hunt Academy in Mississippi, one of the earliest military prep schools in the United States. And I believe that's still in operation, because I know that my sister played Chamberlain Hunt in a tennis tournament once. So part of the 1920 and 1924 Olympic teams, and again, finished, I didn't mention this earlier, finished fifth in 800 meters in the 1920 Olympics, and that's just off the medal stand. And just a guy that obviously meant a lot to Mississippi State people. He qualified for the American Olympic team even back in 1916, but it was postponed due to World War I. Ran a 49.2 quarter mile in the SIAA meet of 15. Very, very impressive guy, for sure. A couple things, too, that you might want to know. He was He was inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame way back in 1963 as a track and field star. A couple more things here that maybe perhaps that you were unfamiliar with. So here's a couple little comments the university dug up. So back in 1914, Don Scott was the guy. He was a sophomore at the 1913 State Track Championships and was called the star of the event. He ran a mile in under 5 minutes, which was unheard of at the time. A 4-minute and 52-second mile that would set an SEC record, with Southeastern regional record. He also ran the half mile in 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Finished first in both of those competitions. In 1914, Scott was battling an injury in Mississippi State, or Mississippi A&M, still finished second in the conference. And according to the Revelry, it says, it's bad policy to say what may have been, but we can safely claim that had Scott been able to take part in the SIAA, A&M, and not LSU would be the Southern champions. That's how important he was. And, of course, if you got an Olympian on your team, obviously that's the case. Another comment in the Revelry, his final year, said, we believe that there is not a better like man in the class than Scoot. I think that's maybe a misprint there. Scott. His description begins, and we never see him when he doesn't wear a smile. Although only 20 years of age, he is a handsome young giant, an all-around athlete, and most marked ability, holding the Southern record in the half and quarter-mile races. He is unpretentious, friendly, studious, and withal knows how to blush. Pretty incredible. A comment from the Reflector as well. This is about the 1915, and this is when this is interesting too. 1915, we have the second oldest on-campus stadium, only to Dodd Field there at Georgia Tech. In the spring of 1915. Scott and his new teammates had a brand new field to compete on, and that's exactly what they called it for the next several years, the new athletic field. That's what we called it, new athletic field. On May 2nd, the new athletic field held its first ever intercollegiate event, welcoming Alabama to compete against A&M in track and field, and that's us. The Aggies, also us, won in a landslide led by multiple first-place finishes from Scott and Duty Noble. How about that? The Reflector had this to say: although the A&M team won the meet by an overwhelming majority of points, let us try to boost our track team, putting new life into the entire team, for there are still great honors left to obtain. So I just think it's important that we kind of understand and honor some of our guys in our past, because a lot of people would think, I just don't fully appreciate, don't know what these. I've been going to Scott Field my whole life, but didn't know who it was named after. One more thing I wanted to read here. This is pretty incredible words about him. Donald Scott is the greatest runner in the South and one of the greatest middle distancers in the world. Other records were smashed, records that have stood the test of the South's best for years. Everything is forgotten in the recollection of the sturdy Mississippi boy of 20 years of age, tearing down the finish line, making his own race with his nearest competitor yards behind, and finishing with a burst of speed that made old-timers wish to see him matched with Ted Meredith, the Olympic champion and the world's greatest runner. The Southern athlete has arrived. Through Scott, the South will gain recognition in the athletics of America, if not the world. It is of Scott we must sing our praises now. He is our long claim to place in the sun of athletics. He is rich in promise and in qualities which go to make the man and the athlete. How cool is that? So that's kind of where we are with Scott Field. And I just say these things because there is a generation of Bulldog fans, and maybe multiple generations, that don't understand the stories behind the buildings and the streets and the facilities that we have on the Mississippi State campus. It's kind of like, okay, well, that's just always what we've called it. And so what I want to do with this segment, and I'll get a little smoother with it as we move forward, but is to be able to give credit to those and also to educate perhaps those that didn't know. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, well, there's names on these buildings simply because somebody gave a lot of money, and that's true in some cases, but not in the case of Scott Field. You know, the students and the administration got together, and then they named Scott Field in honor of one of our greatest athletes of all time. And so when we go to watch Mississippi State play on that great patch of Bermuda grass, let us always remember Don Scott, and that there were great Bulldogs and great Aggies and great Maroons that preceded what we enjoy today. I enjoy knowing those things, and I enjoy sharing those things with all of you. And I think it's important that we keep those stories alive, because I can only begin to imagine how proud the student body at Mississippi A&M had to be when Don Scott went around the Olympics. One of their classmates, one of their heroes, one of their friends is running in back-to-back Olympics, and he qualified for 3. I mean, just begin to think about that for a second, especially in that day and time with the very basic and rudimentary training programs and facilities that we had in the country back then. That Don Scott qualified for 3 Olympics and competed in 2 and came home to a hero's welcome, and his contributions to Mississippi State should never be forgotten. So that's what I want to do. And so I hope this means something to you. If you have ideas for that, reach out, let me know. I've got a few things kind of lined up. But I think there are so many people out there, even in my generation, that we kind of feel like naively that, sports didn't really start until we were born. That's just not the case. And I got a few baseball players whose baseball cards stare at me from this little case I have by my desk that I know many of you have never even heard of. And I think it's important that we tell their stories too, because we did play baseball prior to 1985. Before ESPN broadcast it, we were really good at baseball before. We had some really good years, had some really good teams, and some really good players. And I think it's important that we honor their memories and thank them for their contributions to Mississippi State athletics. So it's going to be a shorter show today because I've got to get back to writing. So I want to make sure you guys kind of understand how the rest of the week is going to work. We're going to be back out at practice today, and they haven't sent us a full schedule for the rest of the week. Now, it's also credential day and all that sort of stuff, so we've got to get everything kind of submitted, and we're going to be ready to roll with that. And then we'll have a couple more practices that we see. Now, Mike Leach told me last week that we will probably get some access in season. Now, probably not when they go to team drills. We'll probably have an opportunity to watch them go through positional drills and some pass skill and that sort of stuff. But I doubt we see formations and plays and things like that. But I do think that we're going to continue to have some access as we kind of move forward. So I want everybody to expect over on Gene's page those notes to continue. They probably won't be as extensive as they are now because we're not going to be able to see as much practice. But at the very least, hopefully we'll be able to be there and see who's there, who's healthy, who's working out, and who's not. Because, week to week, when you get in season, there people you see get injured in a ball game. You'd like to be able to be there on Monday and see them dressed out and participating and be able to communicate that with you guys as well. Because, Mike Leach is just really funny about injuries. He just didn't talk about injuries. And so I don't know when we're going to be able to have a chance to talk to him again. We had him on Saturday after the scrimmage, and the Jordan Davis issue was not addressed. And I think that's probably because it seems like a logical question, but Leach hasn't even had an opportunity to get off the field yet. It's like Davis is carted off. We finish up the scrimmage, and then Leach goes over and thanks the, I guess it's the Cattlemen's Association or the Beef Council, whoever it was that provided the meal. And then he came down to us, so he hadn't had a chance to talk to anybody yet. So we didn't get an update on that. And again, I don't know when we get him this week, but we'll ask. But again, I don't know what kind of answer we'll get. But we will work through that process and share information with you when we can. So thank you guys so much for your support and patronage of the Boneyard all these many years. If you're looking for books, you can find them. You can go to alphadogsthebook.com. That's ALPHADAWGS thebook.com. And you get personalized copies right then and there. I believe in supporting our independent bookstores, and so you can always order the book through them. But it won't be signed or personalized if you do that, unless you come to a book signing. Also of note, too, Blooms of Oleander still hanging in there on the Mississippi bestsellers list. Number 10, we might drop off that list. Been on there for, 9 weeks now? Which is pretty good for a book of poetry. I had somebody tell me when it got up to number 5, that's the highest they'd ever seen a book of poetry. It means a lot to me. And I'll eventually do another book of poetry. Don't know when that's going to be. This is supposed to be my year off. And end up writing 2 books. And so I don't make any promises that I won't write something next year. We'll just kind of see how things progress. But I'm looking forward to getting Dogpile done. But if you're looking for Blooms of Oleander, you can order it through your own bookstore. No matter where you live in the country, you can just say, hey, listen, can you order Blooms of Oleander? And Ingram, who is kind of the distributor, will handle all that. And they can get it through your local bookstore. So you can support me and that local bookstore. And if you don't care about that sort of stuff, you can go to Amazon or books.amillion.com or barnesandnoble.com, and you can order today. It's also available as an ebook on Kindle and Nook, and that's been kind of cool too, being able to add that to different mediums. And so Dogpile will be out. It will not be an ebook. It'll be a print book, and it'll be the longest book I've ever written. And so it's also about a subject that I'm very passionate about. I've loved every one of these books, but I'll be honest with you, writing this book has been the most fun for me of anything I've ever done when it's come to the creative pursuits. And so I hope that shows in the work. My agent says it's the best thing I've ever written. I think it is too, but you guys will be the judge. But I think it's this shared experience that we all have, and we kind of look forward to the fact that, we were able to do something that's never been done before and be a part of that and witness it. And so maybe someday, years from now, I don't know what kind of technology they'll have, they'll be telling stories about our team that won the national championship. Maybe somebody will be having a podcast or a video show, whatever, talking about Tanner Allen or Josh Hatcher or something like that. So that's the hope anyway. But that's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for your support. We'll look forward to being back with you guys on Wednesday. Excited about that. And I will do my best to record that show Tuesday night so you guys can listen to it on your way to work on Wednesday morning. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Geico presents Motorcycle Word of the Day. Today's word is tank slapper. Is a tank slapper used to describe a handlebar wobble? Or is it a motorcycle joke that is so funny you just have to slap the gas tank with your hand as you laugh? As in...
Oh man, Daryl told me a great joke last night. It was hilarious. It was something about a dog wearing sunglasses. I wish I could remember. It was a real tank slapper.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.